Picture this, it's July 13th, 2024, and the nation is glued to their screens, waiting for Donald Trump to take the stage at yet another packed rally. Love him or hate him, you can't deny he knows how to draw a crowd. But just as he's about to launch into one of his classic rants against fake news and the deep state, something unthinkable happens. Trump is assassinated in front of thousands of shocked supporters and millions more watching at home. The bullet, aimed with deadly accuracy, takes down the man who has been both idolized and despised, like no other politician in modern American history. And in that split second, the entire country is thrown into chaos, tipping over on the brink of complete breakdown. The first reaction is shock, followed by confusion. And then, like clockwork, the conspiracy theories start rolling in. Was it the deep state? A bitter former supporter? An extreme leftist? Maybe even someone from his own party? Tired of the constant drama? Social media goes into a rush with theories so wild, they'd make a Hollywood scriptwriter lose his mind. People argue over who's to blame while meme makers have a field day. Imagine the chaos on Twitter. #TrumpWasRight trends, while others push #WhoDoneIt. Some people might even joke that the assassin must have been one of the White House's own staff, sick of hearing "you're fired" for the millionth time. But beneath the online madness lies a real and terrifying truth. The nation has just lost one of its most controversial figures in the most violent way possible, and the consequences are about to get very, very real. The immediate fallout is a disaster for the Republican Party. The Republican National Convention, which was all set to crown Trump as their 2024 nominee, suddenly turns into a political Hunger Games. Picture this: Mike Pence, Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, and a bunch of other hopefuls eyeing each other suspiciously, each wondering how to claim the throne without triggering a complete meltdown among Trump's base. It's like an episode of Survivor, except instead of getting voted off the island, you risk being chased off by an angry mob in MAGA hats. The convention becomes less about unity and more about not getting booed off the stage, as every potential candidate knows that failing to capture Trump's nature could mean the end of their political career. With Trump gone, who's left to carry the MAGA torch? And more importantly, who can keep the base from rebelling? As the Republicans panic to find a new nominee, the nation is anything but calm. Trump's supporters, who saw him as their champion against a corrupt establishment, are not just upset, they're furious. Overnight, Trump transforms from a man into a martyr, a larger-than-life figure whose death only deepens the divides in an already fractured America. Protests break out across the country, with some of Trump's most passionate followers taking to the streets in a show of rebellion. Armed militias start popping up, vowing to defend Trump's legacy by any means necessary. Meanwhile, the rest of the country watches in horror, wondering if this is the beginning of something far worse than the protests of 2020. But the political drama doesn't stop there. With Trump out of the picture, the question of who will run against the Democrats in November is up in the air. By all logical rules, the vice president would be the natural choice to step in, but this situation is anything but logical. Mike Pence, once the quiet sidekick, is pushed into the spotlight, but not everyone's convinced he's the right guy for the job. After all, Pence is known more for his calm attitude and love of old-school traditionalism than for Trump's flaming lingo. Some within the party might argue that they need someone who can represent Trump's spirit, not just his policies. Now for the rest of the contenders: Ron DeSantis with his tough guy persona, Ted Cruz, always one to take advantage of opportunities, and Nikki Haley, who might just be the breath of fresh air the party needs. But picking a new nominee isn't just about who's most qualified, it's about who can keep Trump's loyal base from falling apart in anger and disappointment. The party's decision-making process becomes a chaotic game of chess, with each move potentially leading to disaster. And what about the election itself? With the country struggling from the shock of Trump's assassination, the idea of holding an election as scheduled seems almost absurd. The thought of delaying election day starts floating around, but that's easier said than done. Delaying a presidential election would require the kind of bipartisan cooperation that, let's be honest, is about as likely as seeing cows fly. Yet, the alternative is equally difficult: mowing ahead with an election amid national chaos, where neither party can guarantee a peaceful transition of power. Trump's assassination could be the spark that lights the fuse on an already tense political climate, leading to conflicts over election legitimacy, and in the worst-case scenario, straight-up conflict. The Democrats, watching this GOP meltdown from the sidelines, aren't exactly in a desirable position either. Sure, they might think they have the upper hand, but facing an election with an opponent whose supporters are more fired up than ever isn't a walk in the park. As the dust settles, the real danger isn't just in the immediate chaos, but in the long-term impact on American society. Trump's death would likely be the final string for those who already feel that the system is rigged against them. His supporters, who've spent years convinced that Trump was their last hope to drain the swamp, might now see themselves as the last defenders of his vision. We could witness the rise of a new kind of moment, one that's more extreme and more dangerous than anything we've seen before. Militia groups, once on the outskirts, could become widespread, rallying under the banner of Trump's martyrdom. Meanwhile, on the left, there would be a push to crack down on these groups, leading to a vicious cycle of violence and punishment. The United States, a country that once prided itself on being a beacon of democracy, could find itself sliding into a state of close to chaos, where the rule of law is replaced by the rule of the mob. But let's not forget about the media circus that would unavoidably follow. If you thought the 24/7 news coverage of Trump's presidency was over the top, just wait until you see the post-assassination rush. Late-night hosts would struggle to balance their usual Trump jokes with the gravity of the situation. And then there's social media, where the lines between news, opinion, and straight-up fiction would blur even further. Memes would fly, hashtags would trend, and everyone from your next-door neighbor to your favorite celebrity would have an opinion on what really happened. As the country wrestles with the loss of Trump and the chaos that follows, one thing is clear: America would never be the same. The assassination of such an idolized figure would leave deep scars on the national morale, scars that might never fully heal. Trump's death could become a coming-together cry for those who feel left behind in a rapidly changing world, fueling a new era of political violence and instability. On the other hand, it might also force the country to confront its divisions head-on, leading to a long-overdue reckoning. Either way, the United States would find itself at a crossroads, faced with the difficult task of rebuilding a nation that's more divided than ever. In the end, the assassination of Donald Trump would be more than just the end of a political career. It would be the beginning of a new chapter in American history, one that's likely to be as unpredictable and tumultuous as the man himself. Furthermore, the shadow of Trump would remain ever-present as the nation attempted to move forward, serving as a constant reminder of the risks associated with allowing our political divisions to get out of hand. Whether America can rise from the ashes of this tragedy stronger and more united, or whether it will descend further into chaos, is a question only time can answer. But one thing's for sure: in the aftermath of Trump's assassination, nothing would be off the table, and the future of the United States would hang in the balance.